Finding inner peace may sound complicated in today's busy world, but ancient Stoic philosophers believed it was simpler than most people realize. The Stoics lived centuries ago, yet their wisdom echoes across time because they understood that happiness and tranquility do not come from wealth, fame, or luck. They believed true peace arises from controlling our inner life, our thoughts, judgments, and reactions, while calmly accepting the external events we cannot change. They taught that when we focus on mastering our own minds, we discover an enduring serenity no outside circumstance can destroy. This idea, surprisingly accessible and practical, invites us to see that tranquility is not restricted to gurus or saints, and that ordinary people, whatever their challenges, can enjoy a quiet confidence inside. Hi, I'm Jason, and today we'll explore why finding inner peace is easy, actually. The Stoics said that if we learn to handle our thoughts well, we can stay steady even when life swerves off course, because we stop handing our contentment over to forces beyond our control. It might sound like an impossible feat, but they insisted it is within everyone's reach. They called it living in accordance with nature, a phrase that can seem vague until we realize it means to live as rational, compassionate beings who understand the difference between what depends on us and what does not. By accepting that outer events lie outside our full command, while our inward attitudes and choices belong entirely to us, we make room for genuine peace. Seneca, one of Rome's most influential Stoic thinkers, illustrated this principle by reminding us that adversity in itself has no power to ruin our happiness, but our assumptions about adversity can. He emphasized that we do not grow agitated because bad things happen. We become upset because we judge them as unbearable. If we decide instead that we can endure them, we respond with a flexible calm that protects our mind from panic. He was not suggesting we pretend everything is fine. Rather, we choose how to interpret the difficulties we face. This shift of perspective is more straightforward than it sounds. It means training ourselves to pause when troubles appear, to examine the worry or anger rising in us, and then to ask whether that emotional upheaval serves any useful purpose. If a fire breaks out in the kitchen, panic only wastes precious time, while composure helps us find the extinguisher. Similarly, if a project at work falls apart, frustration may be natural, but complaining or stewing in misery does little to solve the issue. By quietly asking what is in our control, our next step, our attitude, our creativity, we tap into a reservoir of calm that sets the stage for wise action. Seneca believed that far from restricting us, this acceptance of reality as it is opens up new freedom, because we stop fighting unwinnable battles in our minds. Epictetus, who was born enslaved and later gained his freedom, taught that nothing external can truly harm our character unless we let it. He famously said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." Having lived in a position of powerlessness for part of his life, he grasped that even when society strips away physical freedom, the interior realm remains our own. He encouraged individuals to realize that we have permanent ownership of our own reasoning, sense of purpose, and moral judgment. Even in difficult conditions, we can remain peaceful if we do not surrender our mental autonomy to external forces. Epictetus often recommended self-examination as a pathway to tranquility. He believed we should frequently check whether our fears, jealousies, or resentments are products of focusing on what lies beyond our authority. Once we catch ourselves doing so, we gently guide our attention back to what genuinely depends on us: our choices, our viewpoint, and our willingness to act in accordance with virtue. This recentering banishes much of the anger or sorrow that arises from craving results we cannot guarantee. By repeatedly practicing this shift, he maintained, we transform restlessness into inner peace, because we accept that external outcomes are never completely ours to dictate. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor who balanced governance with deep philosophical reflection, reinforced these teachings by emphasizing the transitory nature of all external things. He wrote that politics, reputations, and even physical comforts ultimately pass away, so it makes little sense to let them dominate our sense of well-being. He reminded himself daily that life is short, that each breath is a precious gift, and that complaining about circumstances wastes the time we do have. Instead of fixating on whether events follow our preferences, he urged focusing on whether our decisions align with wisdom, justice, and self-control. In other words, he insisted we can maintain a steady heart in the midst of chaos by staying true to our moral ideals. He would start each morning by mentally preparing for the sorts of challenges he might encounter. He assumed he would meet stubborn or ungrateful people, or that certain plans would not go smoothly. By acknowledging these possibilities up front, he robbed them of the power to shock or infuriate him. This mental preparation was not pessimism. It was a gentle acceptance that the world follows its own course. Marcus Aurelius reasoned that by calmly expecting difficulties, we remain anchored, preventing the swirl of life from carrying away our sense of peace. These ideas might be labeled idealistic, yet the Stoics themselves tested them in conditions far from tranquil. Epictetus dealt with enslavement. Seneca navigated political risks under an unpredictable emperor, and Marcus Aurelius led the Roman Empire during wars and plagues. Their circumstances were hardly conducive to any simplistic formula for happiness, yet each discovered an inner haven through patient mastery of thought. They showed by example that peace does not require a perfect environment, but a disciplined perspective. We can apply the same practice in our own messy lives, whether we are dealing with job uncertainties, family conflicts, or personal disappointments. The essence of Stoicism is that the path to equanimity lies not in eradicating all obstacles, an impossible feat, but in choosing how we interpret and respond to them. It is much easier than we think to shift our mental stance from powerless victim to resilient agent. We sometimes assume that to be at peace, we must find the perfect job, fix all our relationships, or achieve certain goals. The Stoics would counsel us that while it is fine to pursue meaningful work and harmonious relationships, tying our inner tranquility to such external successes is precarious. No amount of professional achievement or romantic fulfillment can guarantee peace if we cling to them as if our life depended on it. The external world can change in a blink. Companies fail, relationships shift, health fluctuates, and fortunes vary. In the Stoic view, lasting contentment must come from within, from a calm conviction that we are doing what is right and letting go of what we cannot control. Of course, this does not mean we become passive or stop caring about our goals. Rather, we engage with life wholeheartedly while keeping an open hand. We plan, strive, and show love, yet we accept that outcomes are not fully ours to decide. This balance of effort and acceptance generates a surprising sense of ease. If inner peace was truly difficult, only the exceptional would achieve it. Yet the Stoics insisted it is easy once we train ourselves to look in the correct place. They said that we should not try to manage all external events. That is an endless struggle that brings tension. Instead, we should simply manage our judgments about them. That is not as daunting as it sounds. A new frustration arises. We pause, notice our immediate reaction, and ask, is this thing within my sphere of control or outside it? If it is outside, we breathe and let it pass by without giving it the power to steal our mood. If it is inside, we choose a course of action with patience and reason. This small mental shift, repeated often, gradually makes peace a habit rather than a special mood that visits occasionally. We do not wait for perfect circumstances to feel serene, because we learn to shape serenity from the inside out. That is the biggest revelation. We create tranquility by changing how we see and handle the inevitable ups and downs, not by erasing them. Indeed, adversity often serves as the Stoics' greatest teacher. Seneca believed that comfortable times do not test our capacities, whereas challenges reveal our reserves of resilience. If we treat difficulties as practice for patience, courage, and adaptability, we transform them from unfortunate interruptions to meaningful training. This approach dissolves a great deal of stress because it replaces an attitude of dread with curiosity. Instead of saying, "I hope nothing goes wrong today," we say, "Whatever comes, I will handle it as best I can, and if it tests me, I will learn." That orientation is one of humble confidence, aligned with the Stoic principle that we can always choose our response, even if we cannot choose our fate. This sense of flexible readiness sits at the very core of why they found tranquility so achievable. We do not find ourselves at the mercy of random events when we hold the keys to our own perspective. Some might argue that life can be heartbreakingly difficult, and no mental shift can soothe real tragedy. The Stoics never denied pain or sorrow. They did, however, insist that we can move through these experiences with dignity and a deep peace that coexists with sadness. Epictetus recognized that losing a loved one is a real wound, but he also said we add to the pain by refusing to accept mortality as part of life's natural course. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his private reflections that grieving is human, yet letting grief paralyze us or hurl us into bitterness is a choice. Stoics stand firm that we can carry heartbreak without being consumed by it, seeing it as part of the broader tapestry of existence. By neither denying pain nor surrendering to despair, they showed how peace can remain intact even amid tears. This gentler perspective on suffering, which acknowledges sorrow yet does not let it define us, offers a path through life's darkest moments. Every day we can practice small Stoic habits to strengthen this inner peace. One exercise involves negative visualization, where we imagine losing the things we cherish most, our health, possessions, or relationships. Far from being morbid, this reflection fosters gratitude. By temporarily envisioning life without these blessings, we realize how precious they are and approach them more mindfully. Another habit is to set an intention upon waking, reminding ourselves that we aim to handle everything calmly, whether traffic jams or workplace drama. If we fail, if frustration flares or we snap at someone, rather than berate ourselves, we note it as a cue to refocus on what the Stoics called right action. Over time, these practices retrain the mind to respond with serenity instead of agitation. This is a daily, incremental process, but it is accessible to anyone, and it yields consistent results in everyday life. We gradually discover that peace is not some lofty, unattainable ideal, but a default setting waiting to be reclaimed once we unlearn our habit of letting externals govern our state of mind. Sometimes people worry that Stoicism might breed indifference or emotional coldness, as if letting go of negative reactivity means losing the richness of human feeling. But the Stoics themselves valued compassion, love, and communal duty. They wanted us to be fully human, caring about the world without letting the world's unpredictability crush our spirits. Seneca spoke about the importance of friendship and kindness, reminding us that we are social creatures who thrive in mutual support. The point is that we should love and help others from a place of genuine empathy rather than from fear or coercion. The difference is subtle but powerful. By grounding our actions in virtue rather than in anxious attachment, we experience relationships with a calmer, deeper appreciation. We do not become apathetic or robotic. We become steady, open-hearted, and resistant to pointless turmoil. That is the essence of Stoic emotional maturity. Feeling fully but in a balanced way, letting reason and virtue guide how we express those feelings, and refusing to let them spiral into destructive extremes. When we begin to see that finding inner peace is actually simpler than we thought, we might also notice that we become more capable, not less, in handling external tasks. Freed from the cycles of worry or resentment, our minds have more energy for constructive effort. Instead of being paralyzed by potential failure, we accept the possibility of failure and proceed anyway. We experiment, learn, and adapt because we are not locked into the notion that we must succeed at all costs to preserve our self-worth. A Stoic outlook quietly increases our confidence, for we know our value does not hinge on perfect achievements, but on the quality of our intentions and perseverance. With this confidence, we often find new successes or creative solutions, ironically improving our external circumstances, even though we no longer worship them as the source of well-being. The Stoic path can be traveled without complicated rituals or rigid dogma. In fact, many who embrace Stoic principles today do so in casual, personal ways. A few moments each morning to reflect on what they can control, a midday pause to check if they are letting others' behavior rule their emotions, an evening review to note where they upheld or abandoned Stoic ideals. Instead of punishing themselves for mistakes, they treat each slip as a prompt to grow more mindful the next day. This gentle, self-directed approach suits modern life, where we have countless demands on our time. It requires no special tools beyond a willingness to watch how the mind behaves and to steer it back on course. Gradually, we see that even a busy schedule cannot stop us from nurturing inner peace if we remain attentive to what truly depends on us and release the rest. In stressful times, it might feel we are swimming against the current if we try to remain peaceful when society around us is frantic or angry. Yet Stoic philosophy thrives in adversity. When the world rages, Stoics see an opportunity to practice resilience and rational compassion. If people around us are locked in conflict, we can be the voice of calm that sees both sides, or that refrains from adding to the hostility. If uncertain headlines fill us with dread, we remind ourselves that the global stage is not ours to micromanage, though we can act responsibly within our community. Realizing how little we truly control might, at first, seem deflating, but it soon becomes a relief. We discover that we do not have to shoulder the entire planet's burdens. We handle what we can, our circle of influence, and trust that this is enough. Even in large crises, that approach fosters a measure of calm effectiveness over blind panic. Over the centuries, countless individuals have turned to the Stoics in search of guidance through heartbreak, illness, political oppression, or personal loss. The reason these teachings keep resonating is that they do not promise an escape from hardship. They simply clarify that serenity can be found in the midst of hardship if we harness our capacity for deliberate thought and moral choice. That is why the Stoics say it is easy, because in each new moment, you choose how to interpret your situation. You choose to let your mind remain free. Yes, it takes practice to build that habit, but the method is straightforward. Focus on what you can shape, your decisions, your perspective, and yield peacefully to the rest. Over time, the mind internalizes this perspective, and it becomes second nature to be calm rather than reacting with frustration or despair. The process is like learning to ride a bicycle, at first wobbly, then increasingly steady. In this sense, Stoic tranquility does not isolate us from the world. Instead, it equips us to engage more wisely and courageously. Once fear or anger no longer dominate our reactions, we can better fight injustice or address social problems because we do so with composure and a balanced view. The Stoics would say that inner peace is not the goal of a hermit withdrawing from society. It is the foundation from which we can do the most good. Only a mind that is not easily flustered can respond effectively to adversity or do the hard work of improving conditions. So by training ourselves to cultivate peace, we simultaneously train ourselves to be more helpful neighbors and citizens. It is a beneficial cycle. The calmer and more grounded we become, the more constructive our actions are in the world, which in turn confirms that a Stoic approach fosters genuine well-being for all. People sometimes assume that ancient philosophies offer outdated ideas, but the more one studies Stoicism, the more strikingly modern it appears. The notion that our emotions stem largely from our judgments about events is central to many current cognitive behavioral therapies, which teach that changing our thoughts can alleviate distress. The Stoics figured this out centuries ago. Their emphasis on virtue as a lifelong pursuit rather than a rigid code also resonates with modern values of personal growth. They believed that to be wise was to keep learning, to refine one's temper, and to remain humble about what is unknown. This continuous improvement does not hamper joy. It enriches it, because each day becomes an opportunity to inch closer to the ideal of living wisely and kindly. Peace is not a static trophy, but a dynamic state that flows from consistently practicing better judgment and emotional regulation. So, if finding inner peace remains elusive, perhaps we have overlooked the Stoic insight that it already exists as a possibility within each of us. We simply need to realize that no external scenario can stand between us and calm acceptance once we commit to that stance. There will still be sadness, frustration, or worry at times, because we are human. Yet these emotions do not have to define us or linger once we remember the Stoic principle. Outside events are what they are, and we have the choice to respond well rather than flail. Knowing that we hold this choice, even in small daily matters, can spark a quiet revolution in our hearts. The next time a stressful situation arises, whether it is a traffic jam, a tense conversation, or a disappointing piece of news, we can pause for a beat and recall that the Stoics found it far easier to maintain peace once they recognized they controlled their reaction. We can breathe, reflect for a moment, and decide not to let that event steal our inner equilibrium. This is the heart of Stoicism, a confident, compassionate approach to life that rests on the conviction that tranquility is an internal affair, always ready to be rekindled once we stop handing it over to external events. It helps to remember, too, that we can fail repeatedly at this practice and still make progress. The Stoics did not expect overnight transformation. They expected an ongoing effort that would see us stumble, perhaps often, but learn with each misstep. If we find ourselves ruminating on a frustrating issue or losing our temper, we can catch it and calmly say, "I see my mind has wandered where I have no real power. Let me refocus on what I can do." That single shift is a victory. It might feel fleeting, but each time we manage it, we deepen the grooves of Stoic thinking. Over months or years, peace becomes the baseline, not the exception. And that is precisely why the Stoics believed that finding inner peace is easy. It is always right there, the moment we let go of illusions about controlling the uncontrollable and direct our energy toward the one realm we can guide, our own judgments and actions. Thus, Stoicism remains a timeless resource for those seeking tranquility amid life's storms. In any era, these teachings free us from the belief that we are mere passengers on a chaotic ride. They show that each day, in each encounter, we can decide whether we cling to external illusions or cultivate an inner calm that no one can take away. By adopting this perspective, we do not deny life's sorrows or complexities, but we learn to meet them with a steady heart. We grow kinder, more balanced, more grateful. We discover that inner peace is not a distant treasure hidden by complexities, but a simple, immediate habit of mind, an ease that emerges when we focus on what is truly our own to manage and release the rest. This shift, though subtle, unlocks a deeper contentment that the ancient Stoics rightfully believed is within everyone's reach. Thank you for watching. If you found this video helpful, hit that like button, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need to hear this. Let's strive to live better, more respectful lives. Until next time, stay strong and stay stoic.